All right, this is part 2 of Chapter Nine's product development. We are going to finish the last 10 or so slides here, and the second half is going to focus on what it actually takes to launch a brand new product. All right, what it takes to develop it, and the business process, which is 7 steps that each business goes through. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes it only takes months. We're going to talk about that process, and we're also going to talk about why products fail. It's very important that you understand that there are reasons, there are marketing reasons that have to do with the 4Ps, and there are business reasons, things that you don't necessarily control, out of your control within the business, that cause products to fail. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what it actually takes to launch a new product, and I really want you guys to look at this because it takes like 3,000 new ideas in order to get all the way down to one commercially successful product. So it takes at least 3,000 ideas. In pharmaceuticals, it was closer to 5,000 chemical ideas in order to get down to one commercially successful product. And in pharmaceuticals, it could take that development time could take anywhere from 10 to 15 years to actually develop a new product. So you have to go through a process, basically. You go through a process where you've got 5,000 ideas, and then of those ideas, maybe 10%, maybe 300 get submitted to patent to see whether or not you can actually own them. Maybe out of that, only 125, maybe half of that, has some patent that you can actually put on it, so it means it's worth developing it because you can own it. Out of that 125, 9. You're already down to 9. Make significant developments. Of that, half are major. And out of that, you may get one. You might develop almost 2 products, but really only one of those. So one out of that 3,000 to 5,000 automatically becomes, or not automatically, but actually becomes, a successful new product. We're going to jump back to that slide. There are marketing reasons why new products fail. Okay, so think about this from the 4Ps, from product, price, place, promotion. Why do new products fail? The first is that what you've developed, and these are big words, insignificant points of difference. What that really means is that you've developed a product that looks exactly like somebody else's product, and it's not good enough for people to switch off of what they're already doing. Okay, so think about all of the Android phones out there. All right, you have developed a new Android phone. I want you to think about Motorola, because Motorola had developed a phone, but then they dropped off of the face of the earth, and you couldn't find them, and they were behind, and they had insignificant points of difference. Motorola is trying something different now with the Moto attachments. So they are trying to, their goal is that every other phone now looks the same, does the same thing, has a camera, has text ability, has phone ability, has internet ability, all that kind of stuff. They have made this group of attachments, so now you can do more things with your phone, hoping that they're insignificant points of difference. In other words, their camera's not any better, their talkability is not any better, their battery life is not any better, hoping they can push those aside and focus on the points where they are different. The second is that you have developed a product and you have no economical access to buyers. And what this means is that you've developed a product that can be used by a group of people in the world, but maybe you're located in Colorado and the group of people in the world that really could use your product are located in Kazakhstan. They're located in Chad in Africa. They're even maybe located in Bolivia. Okay, and you're a small company. You can't necessarily get to those people who could really use your product because it would cost you too much. So there's this developing the product and getting the product distributed cuts into your profit margin, and all of a sudden you make no profit because it costs you so much to get your product out there and get distributed in the places where the buyers would go. The third thing is called incomplete market and product protocol before product development. So what we really need to focus on, and we'll get to the product protocol. There are 7 steps. But what this basically means is somewhere along the lines you skipped something and it ended up being important and you didn't do it. So you've made a mistake and now your product is not going to sell. The next one, the fourth one, not satisfying customer needs on critical factors. Honestly, this can be boiled down into you didn't do market research and you violated Erica's rule number 1, which is it doesn't matter what you think and it doesn't matter what your boss thinks. It only matters what the customer thinks. And somehow along the lines, you have missed what is really important to the customer. The fifth thing that can go wrong with marketing is really truly something that you can't control. And that's just bad timing, okay? You launch your product and all of a sudden there's an economic recession or an economic depression or the stock market crashes or things along those lines. You don't control those things. But bad timing can be mitigated if you truly do the environmental scanning. So if we go back to those 5 things that we talked about, and you're looking at all the things you can't control, you might have been able to see bad time coming if you were actually looking. Now, some of the time you won't. Okay, but you can mitigate that by actually looking at the environment and doing the environmental scanning. The 6th thing, and is something that I hope you never involved in, and that is that you just produced a poor product. It's just bad. The quality is bad. Things break on it really easily. It doesn't do what it says it's going to do. You have cheap product components, okay? And the whole product falls apart or starts on fire. All right, you don't want to have poor product quality, especially if you get it out into the marketplace, because then you're just doing a recall. The next thing is you didn't actually look at the market. You may have a really great product, but you didn't look at the market and actually see how many people are really willing to buy your great product. You didn't look to see what you could sell your product for, how much money you could make, and how many buyers are out there. Then you didn't look at your market attractiveness. Didn't do the business case, and we're going to talk about that. And finally, then there's everything else. Somewhere along the lines, you missed something. You missed the product, you priced it incorrectly, you didn't put it in the right place, or you just did the wrong advertising, poor execution of the marketing mix. Most of these you can control. Go back up a slide because I want you guys to look at this. Okay, so when product winners, okay, factors affecting success rate, unique points of difference. Okay, so remember the first thing where you failed was points of difference. And winners, 98% of the time, they have superior products, superior points of difference. 85% of the time, you have an actual well-defined product, which means you did market research, which means you listened to the customer. Okay? 75% of the time with product winners, they have done a complete market and product development process. They did not skip any steps. They understand the marketing mix. They understand the marketing attractiveness. Okay, so they know that they're doing it right. They know that they've got the right marketing mix, which goes back to talking to the customers. And finally, they've looked at the market attractiveness. So they've actually done a business case analysis for this to make sure you can make money. That's what winners do. Okay? Losers don't do anything. Losers don't do any of this properly. Now, that being said, that's the marketing department. That's you guys. There are organizational reasons that products fail. And by organization, I mean everybody else in the organization. Manufacturing department, the finance department, the IT department, your boss, your boss's boss, the CFO, the CEO, all of that kind of things, all of those are organizational reasons why your product can fail. Okay? Now, notice that not listening to the customer can be a marketing problem, but it can also be an organizational problem. So you in the marketing compartment can be saying, we need to talk to the customer. We need to know what the customer thinks. We need to do this. We need to do that. And your boss or your boss's boss or your boss's boss's boss or the CEO can come down and say, nope, we're skipping the market research. We have enough data. You're wasting time. You're wasting money. Just go with what we've got. Okay? That happens more often than not, and you're not listening to the voice of the customer because you skipped market research. The organization can also direct you to skip parts of the process, to skip one of the 7 steps. Our competitors, we know our competitors are developing the same thing, so we're going to skip step 3. We're not going to do it. We need to get ahead of them, and that comes down from on top, and so you skip the process. Which leads to, honestly, it leads to the third thing, which is going to market too quickly with a poorly conceived product. Okay, so you wanted to beat the competitor. You wanted to be out there first. You skipped things. You didn't listen to the customer, and then you went to market because your boss's boss, or the CEO said you had to go, and you went out there with a poorly conceived product, which means that you're going to lose brand loyalty. You're going to lose market share because the minute the product blows up, falls apart, starts on fire, doesn't work, or breaks, all of that bad karma is going to come back onto you in the form of bad reviews on every social media network conceivably possible. Now you not only have to fix the product, you have to fix your brand loyalty, your company image, your product image, and some of that you can't recover from. The fourth reason why things might fail is that, honestly, you get into meetings and everybody becomes a yes man or woman. Somebody, namely somebody who's higher up in the organization, says something, and everybody around the table says, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a good idea." And nobody voices the little nagging gut reaction that they're having. It says, "No, this is wrong. This is wrong." Okay, so people in groups make the dumbest decision possible most of the time. Now you have to remember that. Somebody has to step up and say no. At a minimum, you will have voiced your conscience, okay? Don't be a yes man or a yes woman or a yes person, just going along with everybody else, thanks, because you haven't been there a long time. You don't want to say something stupid. You got to stick your neck out at some point in time. The next thing is not learning from past failures. Let's just do the same thing over and over and over again and hope it works better this time. Companies do this. Okay, and you might be the person who's going, duh, this is a dumb idea. You raise your hand in the groupthink meetings and you get shot down. Well, that happens. But if your company's not learning, meaning they're not listening to the customer and they're not looking at why the product failed and they're not making changes, you need to run for the hills. Finally, you're not always going to come up with the best idea. And a lot of companies fail because they don't look outside the box. They only look to their own creative people for coming up with products. But there are a lot of companies out there that come up with a lot of products that don't fit with their current portfolio, don't fit with their strategy, they don't fit with whatever they're doing right now, and they sell those products. You could have a winner product that you bought from somebody else and then further developed, but not if you have a not invented here mentality. All right, we are going to skip this one, and don't bother with it. You're going to skip it. Don't pay attention to it. But there are products out there that were really poorly conceived and executed, and surprisingly, nobody bought bottled water for their pets. All right, so I told you, there are 7 steps. Because there's always the steps and there's always lists, and this chapter happens to have like 3 separate lists that you need to know. All right, so there are 7 things we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about some of them a little bit more than others. New product strategy, then there's idea generation, screening and evaluation. Then there's the business analysis, where we're looking at where's the money. And notice that number 5, you don't develop the product. You don't do anything with the product until you get to part 5, and really you're developing a prototype that then goes into market testing. And then if all of that works, then you commercialize the product. So we're going to talk about these 7 steps, some in a little bit more detail than others. The first thing you have to understand is that a successful new product, honestly, is a product that fits a strategic role in the company. In other words, it's part of the company's strategy. You haven't developed something that's so off the wall. The company's like, why would we develop that? It doesn't fit with our mantra. It doesn't fit with our brand. It doesn't fit with our goals. It's not getting us to where we want to be. So think back to like chapter 2. Where do you be? What do you want to be when you grow up? The new products have to fit the strategy the company is currently operating under. So you have 2 different things. You have an externally driven strategy, which means you're defending your product, you're defending your market share. Okay, you're defending against the competition. Or you're trying to break into a completely brand new market that has a lot of competition, and you need to be in there and you need to be down and dirty. So that's what's driving your product development strategy. Or maybe you're trying to preempt something else. You need to be there first. Okay? You need to be there first so that you can preempt the competitor from coming in or from, following your lead. Those are external things, external market forces. Notice that if you do an environmental scan, that this comes a lot from understanding your competitive place in the market. So these are external. Internally driven strategy comes from you want to maintain, you want to do something internally, like you want to maintain your position as a product innovator, which is Apple. Okay, you found some new technology and you want to exploit it. So you've taken this new technology, you've given it to all of your R&D teams and say, how can we use this? How can we exploit this new technology with what we're doing, with something new? How can we do that? You want to capitalize on your distribution strengths. Notice that this is not exactly the biggest thing out there that people want to do. Mostly people want to be product innovators. But can you get to market faster? Can you put the product, do you have these distribution capabilities that you can get your product out there faster than anybody else? You might want to develop a new product to be a cash generator. Okay, so you just know that this new product is maybe not going to be the best, but it's going to get you a boatload of money, which you can then use to develop an innovative product. Finally, you might just want to be, and notice this is not very much, you might want to be using excess capacity that you have, but I would say that that's kind of obviously the least amount of what you want to do. So, as like the first one right here, new product development strategy, why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing it to face something externally or to face something internally driven. So it fits with our strategy. So the next place is, where do all these ideas come from? So idea generation. You're sitting there and you're doing, okay, so we've got to come up with 3,000 to 5,000 ideas. Where the heck do we get them from? So if you look at some companies out there today, we can talk about where they get their ideas from. 3M has an employee and coworker idea suggestion pot, and the last time I checked, they actually encourage all employees, all janitor all the way up to the CEO, all employees to think about new products, and they actually get paid to spend a specific amount of their time every week, every month, every year, every whatever else, brainstorming, sitting in the cafeteria and doodling, okay? Because 3M gets a lot of products from there. Post-it notes came from an employee who was in his church choir. Those of you who maybe attend religious services might know that if you open up the hymn book in whatever religious service church you were in, that the pages are really thin, and if you put real tape on them, it rips them to smithereens. And he wanted to mark some specific pages without ripping the pages. And that's how he developed Post-it notes, because they stick, but they don't rip when you tear them off. So Procter & Gamble, a big company that makes everything from diapers to food to soap to dish soap to laundry soap to body soap to shampoo and pretty much everything in between. Honestly, they're the best example of listening to your customer. They do market research, and their new products come specifically from people who have said, hey, it'd be really great if you could do X, Y, or Z. So they really are listening out in the marketplace, and they're listening to the customer, and they're listening to suppliers about what they could do better, or where the holes are in the marketplace. Well, we have X and we have Y, but we don't have some sort of stuff in between that. We need this middle product, and P&G is really good at listening to that and exploiting it. The next place are universities. Go to universities, they have huge R&D labs, huge science labs, huge biology labs, huge engineering labs, and they develop, invent new products. And those new products are then sold to big companies, and the big companies buy these products, or they fund the development thereof, and then they get to keep the product, and the university gets then money to develop the next big product. Okay? Pfizer, that's where I worked. So it's a pharmaceutical company, and honestly, all pharmaceutical companies, it's all research and development. Huge buildings filled with people with science degrees, from molecular biology to DNA to regular biology to all sorts of things I probably can't even imagine because I never went over there, or they were way too smart for me. I never interacted with those people. But it's all research and development. We throw money into research and development. Finally, there are companies like Marriott and Hilton, and they literally they do the secret shoppers. They send people out to stay in hotels and to come back with ideas, and they research the competition, and then they set up their own little mini hotel suites. They literally set up in a basement someplace, and they put everything on wheels, and they redesign rooms, and then they have people come in and look at the rooms and talk about where the placement of things are and how they could do this better. They do research. Many nights of staying in the competition's hotel to try to figure out what they're doing and how you could do it better. Now, the one that we didn't talk about was then the screening and evaluation. So all of these people, they get 3,000 new ideas. You have to screen them. You have to go and look at them, and you have to say, does this fit with my strategy? Okay, does this fit with what I want to be? Does this fit? Do I think we can make it right now? Do I think we have the technology right now? Do we have the manpower right now? And sometimes that answer is going to be no. You have to screen those ideas down to some sort of manageable chunk. So some you just throw out just in general, not feasible, not right now. Some you put and you say, not this year, maybe next year, and then you get down to that manageable chunk of like 300 ideas, and you say, okay, so now I have to evaluate them. Okay, so there's screening and evaluation where you throw out honestly the majority, and you get down to a level that's in theory workable, that you think have the best opportunity for being commercially viable, for you being able to actually develop, and for you to be able to make money at it. But then you have to determine, can we really make money? So I'm going to skip the slide. And to do that, you have to do the business analysis. Okay? You have to develop a prototype. All right? So at the end of the day, you have to develop a prototype and see whether or not you can even make this thing work. And then you have to look at the business fit. Okay, so you have to do an analysis. You have to do the financial. You have to do the consumer. You have to do the how much could we sell it for? How much money would we make? How long will it take? You have to look at all the synergies in production. So to make this, can I build it on the factory line that I already have, or do I have to build a new factory? How much money will this take? So is this development process like pharmaceuticals where it can take up to 15 years and I have to fund it for 15 years before it even becomes remotely commercializable? And then how fast am I going to get my money back? So how much money is it going to take from start to finish to make this thing a viable product? That includes market research. It includes doing all of the marketing actions. It includes building new production plants. So you have to figure out, is it business fit? And the business fit honestly comes down to financial decisions. You also have to look at your capacity to produce. So this goes back to the production and marketing. But honestly, you have to look at, can I even produce this thing? Can I produce it in the plant that I already have? Do I have to build a completely new plant? Do I need a completely new supplier list? Where do I get these people? How do I get these people? Can my distribution people that I already have, can they distribute this product? Or do I need to find all new lines? And that goes back, honestly, to can I produce it and can I market it? Are the 4 P's viable? Product, price, place, promotion, and it honestly comes down to money. Okay, at the end of the day, it's money, money, money. So I do the business analysis. All right, so then you get into development. Okay, so development is one of the things that we're not going to do. I do believe it was number 5. I might be off. So you've made a test, made a prototype, but now you've determined that you can actually produce it. So what you do is you develop it and you produce a small batch and you test market it. So test market it is like the 6th thing that you do, and you test market it, especially so if you want to launch it in the United States, and it's a product that's going to be used by the average U.S. citizen. Okay, it's going to be used by everybody. It's some new potato chip, it's some new food item, it's some new phone, it's something that literally could be sold potentially to every American in our country. Well, you can't launch it throughout the whole country because that's cost prohibitive, and you don't want to do that and have it fail. So you launch it in a test market. Okay, What happens is there are cities around our country where if you look at their demographics mirror the rest of the United States as a whole. All right. So if you look at, they're doing Wichita Falls, Texas, but if you look at the same holds true for Grand Junction, Colorado. So right here in our own state is the perfect test market because it mirrors the demographics in Grand Junction mirror the demographics in the United States. So look at Wichita Falls. So obviously the population is not the same, but the median age is roughly the same. It's 35 to 33, so it's close. The total number of family households with children under 18 is 1% off. It's 32.8 in the U.S., 33.8 in Wichita Falls. So you've got families out there. You've got a Hispanic demographics, which is about 1% off, less than 1% off. Percent of African Americans is maybe a little less so. Percent of Asians is a little less so. Percent of Native Americans is pretty much right on. So you look at all of that, and you look at all of these cities. So maybe Grand Junction, maybe you need families with children under 18. You need to be a little closer to the Hispanic split in the U.S., and maybe you need to be a little closer to the African American split in the U.S. So maybe you go up to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and you see it's there a little bit better. But this is pretty close to mirroring the makeup of the U.S. So you test market in one of these cities, which means say you distribute through Walmart or Target, you put the product out there, you work with your distributors, you work with Walmart and Target, you say, we'd like to sell this product, we'd only like to sell it, we're going to do some advertising in Grand Junction, we're going to do some advertising in Cedar Rapids, we're going to sell it there, we're going to sell it for 3 months, and then we're going to see what it looks like. We're going to see if people pick it up, and then we're going to do some market research, we're going to call families, we're going to see if they purchase the product, we're going to see if they use the product, we're going to see if they like the product, we're going to see how well they like the product or what they would change about it, okay? And then we either go forward with the commercialization or we go back to the drawing board because they didn't like something. Something didn't work as well or not as many people bought it. You could get this far and test market your product and have nobody buy it, even with all the advertising in the world. And at that point, you really have to go back to the drawing board. So we've market tested it, and now we have commercialization. So in our market testing, if our market testing shows that people bought it, we did the market research and people loved it, there was nothing that they wanted to have changed, we could see that they bought it, maybe it's a product that you have to have repeat purchases for, there were repeat purchases, and they continue to buy the product over time in our test markets, then it's potentially worthy of commercialization. As I said before, sometimes test marketing fails. Sometimes you have to go all the way back up to maybe to the business analysis. Maybe you reevaluate what it will really sell for, or what you need to change, or maybe it's just making some minor changes. So you go back to stage 5, which is development, and you add a few tweak a few things, add a few things, and then you go back. But you don't skip from step 4 or step 5 straight to commercialization. You go back and you do market testing again. You do market testing until you get it right. So those reasons that products failed, they can be marketing reasons. You can have a problem with your product. You can have a problem with the price. You can have a problem with the promotion or the place that you're selling it. Okay, and you go back and you fix it. You can have problems with an organizational problem because the organization has made you move through these 7 steps too fast. You skipped too many of these steps. Maybe you went from development, a lot of the things that people skip. You skip a true business analysis. You skip some steps in the true development and making sure that you have the right product, and you skip market testing, and you jump straight to commercialization. And you wonder why it failed. Okay, so the companies that develop new products and that are successful in developing new products really do spend an exorbitant amount of time doing these 7 steps. Okay, so that's pretty much the end. That was all the way through the 24 slides. So hopefully you understood all of this. Obviously, if you do not, you can always shoot me a text or shoot me an email to the Gmail account, and I will attempt to be more than happy to answer your questions. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a good weekend.